Did you do a language in school?
Yeah. French, but I didn't sit GCSE. In fact, I didn't go in for it because I scored so poorly in my mock.
You just didn't bother?
No, the teacher was like, she was a bit like, and to be fair, I regret it.
Well, that was my next question, because I did French, didn't enjoy it, switched to Spanish, like you, didn't. I don't think I turned up for the oral exam, because I knew. But I regret it now. That's like, we could be like speaking in like 3 languages now if we just got our heads down.
Yeah, and do you know what's really weird? I did French for the 5 years and Spanish for a year. And it's amazing how many words I do recall in French. Like, I can literally name loads of things. What I lack is the ability to put it in a conversation. And it's not just like, it's like nouns and verbs and that.
Yeah.
But I struggle with that in English anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Is that not just because of the scene with Troy and Arbed doing the Biblioteca?
Oh,
is it just from that?
I just think I'd love to be able to be competent in a language.
Yeah. Same.
And I love it. The few times I've been to France, I can go to a shop and ask for something. And I'm made up with myself because I got a job and asked for 1 croissant.
Whereas I'm one of them that's annoyed when they don't speak English.
I'm like, but the French are boss because, like, if you try, they're not even asked. They're like, in fact, they're insulted that you butcher their language. Whereas anywhere else you go, just saying hola in Spanish, like, hola.
Like it made an effort.
Yeah, it's like, that's the only way, uno biro. Like, but in French, if you get it wrong, they're just like, and I'm like, I respect that.
Yeah, don't come to our country and even try because you're getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Watch It If You Can. My name is Dave.
My name is Liam.
This podcast is all about box sets we've created of our favourite films and TV shows. Some you've seen, some you won't, and others you may never want to watch. However, we can say if you've never seen any of the Fast and Furious movies, it's okay, we'll still let you be part of our family. All we want to do is chat on about these films and TV shows that we love so dearly, and maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can. Liam?
Dave?
You alright?
I'm alright. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. I'm in the host chair this week.
You are?
First question then. What is it? What have you picked?
This week it is the 2002 Brazilian masterpiece, and I don't use that word lightly. That is City of God.
Brazilian.
Or I'm going to go the Brazilian Portuguese pronunciation of it, Cidade de Deus.
Well done. That was pretty good for you,
like,
actually.
It could sound nothing like that. Apparently I was on a website and it's completely... see the word Cidade, city, there's about 5 or 6 variations of, and its accents, they all do it slightly different as well. So it's obviously, we know more than anyone about accents. So, but you don't think about that of other languages as much.
Yeah, our country's just absolutely full of them, isn't it? Say. Different pronunciations of city. I wouldn't have even known, so I'd have got it completely wrong. What I do like is, and I forgot all about it, the tagline for the movie.
Ooh,
can you remember it?
No.
So the tagline is, if you run, the beast catches you. If you stay, the beast eats you. And it's so perfect.
Do you know what? It would wait till I come back to the favourite scenes. I'll come back to that. Just a quick overview. It follows a group of kids as they attempt to grow up in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro. It's the first film we've had on Watch It If You Can that's foreign.
First foreign language film.
And subtitles. So it's a bit of our first animation last week.
Yeah.
And... I've been trying to make a bit of a link between, because we've done, accidentally it's happened on this box set, there's been links to all the rest of the box set. So I had a crack at this, and I'm really proud of this. But
is it a stretch?
No,
oh,
no,
go on,
it's
then.
not
Am I
even a
gonna
stretch.
reinvest?
Okay, for a start, none of the cast have been in Cheers. So I'm just
That's a first.
Okay, so here's the link between the whole of the box set so far. Leandro Firmino, who plays Lil Z, who's the main gangster in it, he was in a film in 2014 called Trash, alongside Martin Sheen. Okay. In 1995, Martin Sheen was in the film The American President, which starred John Mahoney and Richard Dreyfuss, and guess who directed it?
Double it, not a Bob Marley film.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't it? Yeah.
And I'm like, and not only that, because we've already mentioned the links back to Young Guns and Box Set 1, who's Martin Sheen's kid?
I know, Charlie Sheen.
And
Emilio Estevez, sorry.
But I was quite impressed with that one.
But I've somehow managed, so we haven't looked at each other's notes because we don't, do we?
No.
I bring up Bob Marley later.
Oh.
And I totally, and it's nothing to do with our box sets, I just bring him up.
But I just feel like when I found that link on...
So it's all 6 degrees of John Mahoney, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everything
it is.
comes back
Everything's
to John
Mahoney in this box set, so maybe we retitle the box set the John Mahoney box set.
The tribute box set,
The
yeah.
tribute box set, yeah. Which I can think of worse names to call our box set.
So why is it on the list this week?
Oh, it's a gangster film. Above all else, God, I love a gangster film. It is just, but it's a gangster film, but it spans multi-decades. It goes from the 60s, 70s, through to the 80s, and it's got that amazing intertwining multi-character, non-linear story, which gangster films do so well. You know, with all these characters and stories weave in and out, and it spreads. And it's just got loads of like little, I've got down here, filmic flourishes. I just like the words, and it's got things like freeze frames and jump cuts, and on top of that, it's got a soundtrack so sweaty it's sexy. It's like that's you know what I mean? It's like they are what's not to like about this film. But as well, a couple of other points is it's the only film I've ever put on and watched again within the same week. First time I watched it, I literally put it back on again a few days later.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's an element, obviously, with the subtitles, you feel like you're concentrating a little bit more and you don't...
Maybe missing out on some of the action.
Yeah, so you went back. But I do remember, because I do vividly remember down on the time, put it on, I was like, whoa. Literally, I think about 3 or 4 days later, put it back on and watched it again. Because a few of us watched it. Yeah. And then I sat back and watched it on my own a few days later, and I was just like, oh, God, that's boss.
See, I was probably the opposite, because I watched it at the time it came out, absolutely loved it, but it gives me knots in my stomach.
Yes.
It's such a, like, especially when you know what's going to happen, and there's scenes in it that are like hard to watch, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I generally haven't watched it again until you said it was going to be on the list, and then I watched it the other night and thought, it is absolutely like... It's amazing.
Like, I use the word masterpiece.
I just forgot how good it was.
Yeah, it just sucks you in. And as well, I always love when cinema gives you a story or a take on things you just wouldn't otherwise get. Like this insight into the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, we wouldn't normally get, and it's just that take on things, and to go in and see it and feel it and taste it, because you're in there, aren't you? Like,
that's where the knots come from.
Yeah, and almost like you can see. And I was reading, I found a post some guy had done, because apparently they use it in A-level film studies quite a lot. And I was reading on surfing the Google net, whatever you want to call it.
Kenny's shaking his head here now.
It's like, oh my God,
surfing the Google old man.
I was surfing the Google net, and I found this amazing A-level revision site, and it just had this mountainous list of notes, and like some of them were like, I don't even understand what he's saying there, Jimmy. But it was such a lovely thing to go back and have a look.
The bit for me, and what I totally forgot about, is how much happens in a 2-hour film.
Yes.
Because that could have been a series, couldn't it?
Oh,
You could have had that. You could have had a 10-part series with following all those characters, but they managed. It feels like they've squeezed the 10-part series into a 2-hour movie. It's
most definitely. I think they said there's about 4 or 5, 6 main actors in the supporting cast of about 13, and they all have a part to play.
You remember them all as well.
Yeah,
don't you?
they're all quite integral into the movement of the story, and it spans generations as well. But I think just going back to the point I said, I love seeing films and being like cinema just has this ability to tell stories that you don't otherwise see. But at the same time, seeing the similarities, like we come from, in English terms, quite working class backgrounds. We you know, I can remember being quite poor as a kid, you know what I mean? Like, and that you can feel it. You can sort of, I reckon we can identify a lot of what goes on. Not as much in a film.
I know where you're coming from.
It's
not to that level where we're going hungry and we tend to, but we've certainly seen gangs and trouble and things like that. That is,
and you can see how
up,
we've seen friends go down certain paths.
Yeah, true.
Like kids that we grew up with before we went to senior school were lovely kids, then somehow just go off the rails. Like
some of them are genuinely in prison. That's why
without a doubt. You know what I mean? So it's like, for all it's amazing.
I think it's the city element.
Yes. Definitely, like
living on top of each other and stuff, because we have, a lot of people we probably knew at the time lived in flats, so I know you can't compare that to sort of the slums in Brazil and stuff, but it's that living on top of each other, isn't it? And in one of the notes, I think that I lost train of thought before, but what I was getting about that revision note, when I was reading it for the A-level film studies, was how actually integral the favela is almost a character. And that grows, because when it starts in the 60s, it's just cleared land where the jungle was, where they just built these little shacks, and then it just become built on, and it was all deregulated buildings, so people were just racking up and building. There was no, they didn't even get electricity and sewerage until recently. Like it was a big thing they undertook. So there's a scene, isn't there, where they're putting the pole up and they say we're getting electricity, and all the kids are excited, aren't they?
But it's like, it's just gone in the space of 20-30 years. It went from those open plan spaces where they were just like shacks, but they look quite simple and basic, but that open space with the mountains and the jungle in the background, it's literally just a mass of entries and back alleys and just
a maze, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's almost a character itself. I think it does play a part in it. But yeah, it's a great film.
So mostly unknowns in this, really, but is there anyone that we'd know? Who is in it?
Cool. Not really. I think there's one which I'll come to, but I'll just go through some of the main players in it. Alexander Rodriguez plays Rocket. He's the sort of, the film centres around him. He's the kid who's...
He's your protagonist,
yeah, he's grown up and he sees a way of getting out because he's the photographer, and it's sort of built around his story. And it's actually his telling of the story. But again, I've went on he's done Brazilian TV and films, but nothing that we'd know of. Leandro Firmino, who played Little Z, I just think is one of the most memorable characters in cinema in a long time.
Knots in the stomach again.
Yeah, he's just like I said, he was in the film Trash with Martin Sheen and Rooney Mara, who's also in The Social Network, and A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. So
them two in the 10-year documentary, they're both in it.
Yeah, and
they talk about getting paid, and I can't remember what the currency now is in Brazil. I've totally forgotten what it's called, but it was 10,000. So what happened was, with Rocket, he got offered either 10,000 or a cut of the profits, and obviously he took the money because they were poor, weren't they? These weren't actors, were they? And I looked at what it'd be worth now, and it's only like £1,500. That's all they both got paid, but he could have took a cut of the profits.
It's a bit like when you hear stories about the original Star Wars cast, when they turned down the cut of the merchandise and all that,
George,
it's like,
George took it,
he took the lot, because no one thought it'd sell, but
but they I think them two were paid the most. They got about 10,000, which again works out 1,500, and everyone got paid about 5,000. So no one was paid big money to do this movie.
Well, I think you've sort of touched on it before. They weren't actors; they were literally kids that grew up in the area, and they literally just picked them. I'll come back because it's. I
think they met like something like 2,000 kids or something. Narrowed it down to that main core.
There are a couple of the other ones to pick out. There's Felipe Hagason, I think, who plays Benny. Again, don't really. It feels terrible reeling off these actors, but they were plucked from nowhere. So and some of them gone on to do Brazilian TV, but we don't really know much Brazilian TV. One that I put on my list is actually, and I've seen the trailer for it because it's on Netflix. Sao Jose, who plays Mane Ganala, or actually Knockout Ned.
Yeah,
he's in a Netflix series called Brotherhood. Actually, does look quite good. So. There's 2 series of that. I was like, oh yeah. He's probably the biggest known before because he's quite a big music star in Brazil as well.
He's a huge music star, yeah. They show clips of his concerts as well. But he's in Life Aquatic, the Wes Anderson movie as well.
Oh, okay.
He was cast in that. He sent basically they were looking for someone, and he sent like a casting video in and tried to do a bit of English, and he's in that movie, yeah. And
the only other thing you can sort of like the one that's had the biggest impact is the girl who played Angelica, Alice Braga.
It's probably got the smallest part in the movie compared to everyone else. Great part, but not the biggest of parts.
There's the TV series Queen of the South is really meant to be really good, where she plays a wife of a Mexican gangster who has to relocate to Texas or something like that. I haven't seen that. Apparently it's a really good series. I've seen the name pop up a few times, and when we were doing research I looked at it and thought, I've heard of this. Apparently it's really good. But we've seen recently in Suicide Squad and Soul. She voiced one of the characters in Soul, the Pixar film.
I didn't see that. I know she's in I Am Legend, and she was in Predators. Not the particularly good Predator movie. She is going to be in the new Robert Rodriguez movie with Ben Affleck, which is coming out this year.
But she's the standout star. She's gone on and had a career in Hollywood big time. It was interesting because you don't see often 2 directors of a film, and I was having a look and said Fernando Morales, he was the one who sort of brought the film and got it together. He took care of the filming and the cinematography and the lighting and that, whereas they brought on Katie Lund, who's an American Brazilian family, so she lived out there. She basically set up workshops. This is what we were saying before. They went into the favelas and created workshops with all the kids, and they built the actors and built the script from that. Apparently most of it was all just made up on the spot. Like there was no script. They literally said this is pretty much it, and they just rehearsed it and then shot it.
Well, because apparently the scene where they're going to go off and sort of have the big sort of killing spree, it was one of the kids that said, are we not going to pray before we go? And the director was like, what do you mean? He was like, because that's what we do. So that's why it's in the movie where they sort of stop as well. But they did City of Men as well.
Yes, which
Douglas Silver, who's Little Dice, is in as well. And I generally didn't know there was a City of Men.
No, not until I did. So is it some of the same people? And
no, it's totally none of the same characters. It's a loose sort of sequel, but it's not the same characters. But have you got a favourite character then?
It's hard. And it's the same question for favourite as well. Favourite's probably not the word.
I thought the exact same thing.
But tough. Lil Z is such a memorable cinematic baddie. He's fascinating. He's scary. He's complex. He's simple. You can see unpredictable. He's on the edge. And then the counterpoint to him was Benny, who's actually my favourite character. And I think Benny was such an important character in the film because, and I'll come to it in a little bit in a minute when I do my favourite scene, is he's the coolest character in the film by a long shot. He's bossed the hair, the glasses. He stands out. You know what I mean? And when he did the scene where he's saying I'm leaving, I'm going, and the voiceover by Rocket is like he literally got every other rival gang there, all the church people, all the samba dancers, all the karate, whatever, and everyone came together because they loved him. And yeah, he was a gangster, sold drugs. Do you know what I mean? You can see how perspective of living in a small community, because he was.
But when he sends like the kids going by him the clothes, because he does want to make himself. He doesn't want to live like that anymore, does he? And he generally is the one that grows up, but sadly doesn't grow up.
Yeah. So I just think they counteract each other. So because you see them as kids and they're inseparable when they grow up, and one without the other is.
Yeah, little Z's bad enough, but once he gets killed, he's even more unpredictable.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's weird what you've said then, because mine's the same character, but mine's Little Dice. Mine is Little Z when he was younger.
Okay.
Because Douglas Silver played him. Apparently got Emmy nominated as well.
It was really good performance, yeah.
And what I want to know is like, and what the film obviously doesn't have time to go into, but what was his backstory?
Yes.
Because how do you get to be that way? He's overly confident. He's going to be the gang leader, but he's a killer at that age, like that.
Because it's so weird, because they do that obviously with. That's the first part of the film where it's set in the 60s, because they're older. It's his older brother and his couple of friends, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And they rob the hotel or whatever, the brothel. But then he goes in afterwards, kills everyone, and not the other,
and laughs
and finds it like, it's like.
So they rob the motel, don't they, and leave?
Yeah.
Then it cuts to them all dead, and you're thinking, well, we didn't see them die.
And
obviously we get this is the non-linear thing, isn't it? Where then goes back. That scene where he walks in and that couple sat on the bed and he just shoots them. He laughs and walks away. And then we obviously know then he kills everyone else almost in the motel. So favourites, horrible word I think for this question, because he's such a horrible character. I think those two versions of that character are the two best. If we say best characters in the film, it's them two, I think, isn't it?
I think the word's more intriguing than favourite in something like this, isn't it?
When he kills, obviously, we're going to always have spoilers in our episodes because we're talking about why we love the films and what we love about them. When he kills Rocket's brother as well, I know he steals the money from him, doesn't he? Goes to walk away because we know his brother's
it's so
died.
Nonchalantly as well, isn't it?
It's just like I'll just kill him. But this is another thing, little similar link to Stand By Me. The brother and the friend, apparently in real life, they were told to bully him for about 15 days. So that's why in that scene that kid is so wound up, because they generally have been picking on him and stuff as well. Yeah,
it's almost like. Whatever works for film, but then you think, but it's
me.
How far do you go for your art?
And they're actors, are they? So for that kid, it's just he's not. He doesn't know what method acting is or anything.
Yeah, definitely.
This one I think is going to be a tough one because so much happens. Have you got a favourite scene?
I have. I've got two honourable mentions, which I've decided from now on I'm not going to call them honourable mentions, I'm going to call them the honourables. I'm going with it. I'm going to. So my honourables are, I think the opening scene, the opening sequence
with the chicken
is just. If you want to see an example of a film in an introduction, can basically give you every metaphor of what's in the film. It's got think about it, you've got a chicken ready to be slayed, so it's foreshadowing all the violence that's coming. It's tied up, it thinks it escapes only to be chased, and it's and at the same time you've got the sharpening of the knife, you've got the music coming in, and it's just on all the way they filmed it was really tight shots with that claustrophobic
bits with the camera at the viewpoint of the chicken.
So that's low point, and then it flips to the high point, which are the kids running after it, and it all intertwines, and then it opens up to where you see Rocket and his friend, and they turn out on the street, and that scene where all the gang are lined up with the guns, and it's just what a way to start the film, and then boom, it flies right back to the 60s. And then and the way it comes back to that moment again later, I just think
you're gripped, aren't you, by that thing? But it has got that, like, it's almost like a Hollywood spin. It, like you see it in like Bad Boys with that camera going around and stuff. What that scene reminds me of, well, have you seen Belfast?
No.
There's a scene with Jamie Dornan in one of the streets, and you've got the gangs, not the gangs, but obviously the people that live there, and the police turning up, and it's a bit like that where he's in the middle, and it reminds you exactly of that scene.
That's the Kenneth Branagh one, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know whether they copied that or you know, I imagine in Belfast that's probably exactly what happened, but it does seem like that scene like remade, but in Belfast. I
just think that the introduction, and I was like, going back on about the A-level revisions, I was just, do you know what, I was just loving it, and I used words, and I was laughing before, because I went to university and got a degree in media and culture, and it was like so weird. I'm coming back to revisiting stuff, and it was like, it was going on about the perfect use of diegetic and non-diegetic sounds, and I'm like, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, just basically when you overdub stuff, like, so basically when it's that opening scene, the sharpening of the knife is diegetic because it's happening at the moment, but where you hear the music come on and it builds up, that's the non-diegetic, but it's edited, it's almost like a soundscape that's edited, and then the pictures are on top of that, and it just gives you can taste, you can feel it, your heart's going, because like
and there's flashes to real life scenes as well. Some of those death scenes apparently are real. You think they're part of the movie, but actually real life. It's flashes.
That opening scene is just absolutely fantastic. But the other scene I picked as well is Benny's death. I just think the way they did it, because they're in a nightclub and it's his leaving do, isn't it? And they were saying he purposely picked the song Kung Fu Fighting, which is quite a cartoony song, and he said it just was that difference between a Kung Fu Fighting toy song and against the backdrop of all this actual violence, and he was saying it is slightly unnerving.
Because while it's going on, you've got the scene with little Z getting knocked out there to just undress.
Like, and that's the start, that's the prelude for all that, and it's really, you know, because he's just, you can see that. But the murder scene of Benny, where I think it's Blackie who was basically got bumped out of the apartment for selling the drugs, isn't it? You can see, and the way it's in the crowded scene, and the strobe lights are on, and then it's like you see it all.
And he's not there for Benny.
No,
is he?
No, and it's just the way they choreographed all the crowd, the music, the strobe lighting, and then the moment when Benny's shot, and again, it's like. And then you just see little Z left there with him, and the strobe lights just flickering on and off, and it's the last flickering of life, literally, of Benny. And also, that's the moment we come back to. That's the moment little Z was gone, because without Benny,
no one to stop him, was there?
He was on his own, and then from then it just goes. It just goes off, and he can't. Without Benny, he's got no. They were yin and yang, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? It was like
because there was a few times where it's Benny going, just let him go and stuff like that.
He was the voice of
killed twice as many people.
Oh my God, all day long, and it's like, but that relationship between two of them was so special. We see this. I loved it. We've seen it quite a lot in gangster films. You know what I mean? The characters grow apart and that, but it was really well done. But I think I've got to go for the scene. It's not because it's the favourite, but just because. You'll never forget it. The scene where little Z chases down the runts in the alleyway because they've been stealing from the shop.
This is me nuts in the stomach again.
And not only that, he gets one of his new recruits who's only kid himself. He says, you have to shoot one of them. He's got two kids. So he eventually shoots one, and then the little kid left. I think his nickname was like Little Giant, something like that. Which,
well, they say, do you want to get shot in the hand or the foot first?
And he goes to the foot, and he holds his hand out, but he still shoots him in the foot. It's just a horrible scene. And
that kid's amazing, isn't
and
he?
the face of the kid who's crying, he's just stood there, his mate's just been shot, he's got to pick his foot or his hand, and he holds his hand. The moment he holds his hands out, it breaks me. It's just, I think he's naturally terrified. It's just...
Well, from what I understand, the acting coach said to him, have you ever had like a toothache? And he was like, yeah. He said, imagine having a toothache in your foot. So after you get shot, that's what the feeling's like. And when he limps away. But I'm with you, that when they first turn up and they're saying, hold your hand out, and he is crying, that to me, either he is just unbelievable actor or he's generally scared, and I still don't know which one it is. I'm going down the route of he's a brilliant actor, because he is in that documentary 10 years later,
and I
talking
think
about
as well,
it.
I remember seeing the director Fernando Miralles, apparently was heavily influenced by Mike Leigh, who does a lot
gritty stuff,
but they don't really have a script. They workshop it, they work it, they you know what I mean? They keep shaping it, go with moments, keep filming it, and I think that's but that scene with the runts is just like, I don't think that leaves you, that scene. No,
I totally agree. There's I wrote that one down. I said that scene in particular. I've got two. One is the scene with Shaggy being shot by the police.
Yeah.
I think that is so tense. So they turn up, don't they? She decides she wants to leave, doesn't she? But he's right, we're getting out. They jump in the car pull a gun on the guy. The car breaks down, doesn't it? And we know the police are around the corner because they've just found that the guy just killed his wife, hadn't they? And they were getting that body and looking for these kids, aren't they? Because the motel murders. And Shaggy has to get out and push the car. And you're thinking, just go.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get out. She wants to get out. You're actually finally agreeing to leave as well. And he has to get out and push the car. And then someone says, don't they, to the police, that's him there. And as soon as they start chasing him, you just want him to get away. But you know, don't you? You know, he gets shot and he's running alongside the car.
It's that running through the houses. So did you notice, as well, you just reminded me, one of the things, so there's a real definition in tone and colour for the two, almost two separate parts of the film. So all a bit filmed in the 60s was very orange and warm with the open space. And that moment where Shaggy dies, the colouring goes, it's like that drenched bleach type. As he dies, it fades out, and then from then on you don't get the warm orange colours anymore.
Right, I never noticed.
When it comes to the rest of the scene, it's a lot more blue and cold and grey colours, and that's the moment it changes, because you think he's getting away and he's running and he's running and he's running, and when he dies it fades. That's because apparently it's a real thing for Brazilian cinema, that bleach drenched look. No, it's quite over. I don't know how they make it. It just looks like a little bit the film drenched.
And I suppose part of that is, as the city builds up, there's more shadows, because there's no, probably if you go back and watch those scenes, it is really bright. That's not the scene though. The scene I really like, and I'm cheating here because it's a bit of a long scene, but I think it personifies like Rocket really. It's when he decides he's going to go into crime.
Yes.
So you get the little flash up, don't you? You know, I can't remember the exact wording, but you know, he gets a gun, he gets on the bus, meets Knockout Ned, and then gets chatting to him. Realises, oh, he's a really nice guy, I'm not going to rob him. Gets off his friend, goes, there's a bakery there, we'll go rob the bakery. And he's seen him run over there, flashes, and he's getting the girl's number, and they're leaving going, she was too nice, I couldn't rob it. Then the car turns up, and it's the guy from Sao Paulo, and they go, no one from Sao Paulo was cool, so we'll go rob him. Yeah. And it cuts to them laughing and joking in the car, getting out, going, he was really cool, wasn't he? And you're like, Rocket will never turn to crime. You know, he had that chance to shoot little Z, doesn't he, in the house when the gun's there, and he doesn't take it, knowing he's killed his brother. But that I know it's like a bit of a long scene, but those 3 attempts of him trying to do crime and he can't do it, and that's my favourite part of the movie, really. It's
the one bit of the film that's actually quite positive, if that makes, do you know what I mean? It's like his story is the positive story, how he does get out of it, but God, it's a struggle. It's we're saying it, oh my God, it's a knot, it's horrible. It's just, you are engrossed when
you
you
can't
watch
take
this
your
film.
eyes off it, can you?
It's absolutely been amazing. And the way we keep coming back to the actors, they weren't actors. It's just goes to show, if you've got an idea and a vision and people buy into it, you can do great stuff.
So we talk about characters, we talk about the scenes, but you really like the music.
Oh my God, like the soundtrack, get the soundtrack on Spotify, it's just what. So you've got a couple of Western tunes that we will honour, a bit of James Brown's, one song by the JBs and Carl Douglas, Kung Fu Fighting, and that sort of interwoven in there. But it's this real funky soul vibe that it comes through it. There's a real movement, cultural movements in Brazil from the 60s onwards, and they really mix up the Brazilian feel of things with Western music. So there's big psychedelic funk music, and you can feel it. So there's a couple of songs I picked out. I think it's Tim Maya, and this is where it gets really. It says, "O Caminho do Bem, do 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 do." That one, it's in it. That is just one of the funkiest tunes you'll ever hear. And I picked out another one by Wilson Simonal in Nem Vem Kunetem. And it's just, but do you know what? Just go and get Spotify on, go and get the soundtrack. It is one of the best. It's up there with Goodfellas when it comes to a soundtrack.
That's a big call, but I'll go along with that. It is
just because the songs are integral to the film as well, because, you know, there's always music in favelas. That's what people just say. It's never ending. There's always music. And it's the intertwined all the Brazilian music. There's a few Western songs in there, but I love the way they did. They said, no, we're going to go with these. These are tunes that we know. Yeah. These are Brazilian tunes. We all know them. And it's like, you can't understand the word they're saying because they're all in Portuguese, but God, it doesn't matter because they are just absolutely awesome. It's a cracking soundtrack.
So when it comes to the film itself, what, if anything, could they have done to make it better?
The only thing I'm going to say is the definition of the time span is not that. It gets a little bit hazy. There's the bit in the 60s which is clear with the three old ones and they're all kids, but then the rest spans from the 70s to the 80s. But there doesn't seem to be that clear definition, if that makes sense. It seems to get a bit, do you get what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, trying to follow it and with the jumps, and then you've obviously got jumps back and stuff.
Yeah, but no, because it's clearly when the bits in the 60s, when the kids like Rocket and Z.
But from when they're adults, it's like kind of what's the span?
That adults bit spreads over like 10 years. But it's not quite clear, but it doesn't take anything away from the film. That's my thing. I always like, you know, because
do you need the numbers? Do you need the this is 1979, this is whatever?
It just maybe they could have gone one step further and brought in a different set of actors. For like, you've got the kids around 7 or 8, then you've got the 18, 19-year-olds, and then you've got the 25, 30-year-olds. Or something they could that would have then done something else to it. But it's not a complaint. It's just something you sort of go.
It's not very clear that the length of time it was over.
Yeah, it just sort of, once it hits the 70s into the 80s, it just sort of rolls into one a little bit and stuff, and it's a bit like, oh, okay.
So I've got a few things.
Okay.
They're not bad things. One in particular is just the scene that annoys me, and they should have fixed it. After they robbed the motel, they're running down an alley, and I think it's Little Z and maybe Blackie, I can't remember now. But basically, they run along and they see a garage door open, and they go, "We'll take the car."
Oh yeah, no, this is Shaggy. This is the 60s. Yeah. Shaggy and actually Rocket's older brother.
Oh yeah, sorry, because Little Dice is a little kid now, isn't he? Sorry, it's Rocket's older brother, isn't it? They dive into a garage to take the car, and the car immediately comes out.
Yeah.
And I think what it is obviously they're kids, so there's two stuntmen sat in the car, And obviously it's like action. They're meant to run down, they run in the garage, and the stunt drivers drive the car out. But it's so quick that there's no way they go in the car.
Hot wired it and got out. Yeah.
So when I was watching it, I was like, I can almost still see his leg hanging out the car door, and the car's gone. So that's really picky, you know. You could probably, if they'd have just slowed it down,
just give it a beat,
just a beat like for them to go in. So that was just something that it just took me out the movie for a second.
Yeah,
I was like,
I know exactly when you.
That's clearly not them. And the other two is Bernice shouldn't have shot the policeman when she's leaving in the car with Shaggy, and he's running along. She points the gun out the window, and she shoots one of the policemen. And I just think she was, aside from Rocket, she's the one good character in the film. She's convinced him to leave this life of crime behind you. Come with me. Let's just go. Let's just hold this guy hostage and take his car. And I know it fits in with the story.
Yeah.
You know, if you try to leave, the beast will find you and stuff. I hate the fact that she leaves killing. She's a police. You know, she's a murderer. And she was the good one, and it really it comes back to those knots in the stomach, feeling sick. I think, she's just lost Shaggy, and she's just killed a policeman.
So she's done now, isn't she? She'll never recover from that.
And one more little thing. At the very end in the post credits, we get the Knockout Ned interview, the real life Knockout Ned, and I think what they didn't have the opportunity to do in this film, which Narcos does brilliantly, is just intercutting with more real life footage. You could have had news reports from the time, because Narcos is brilliant for doing that.
It's great. It's the ending of Pablo Escobar where he's escaping on the roof, and they've intercut the real. Yeah,
they do it for the whole thing. Yeah. A lot of the news reports are the real people, and even though they have the real people on the telly, they'll then cut to the actor who's playing it. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It still makes sense. And I just think they had an opportunity to have some real. I know some of the scenes of the people who were dead apparently that is real life, but I just think you could have had a few news clippings in there. Yeah. Because Narcos, that's what I love about Narcos. Yeah. So that was for me. What impact did it make then? Okay, so a little bit of reading done. Apparently it gave Brazilian cinema a real shot in the arm, and it's apparently the film community in Brazil, and I'm supposed we're talking about the little independent film community. They weren't. I think I read somewhere they were only making 5 or 6 films on average a year, and then after this it was like 30, 40 a year. It gave a real burst of enthusiasm for film and cinema in Brazil, which is great because they're always telling stories. Is just the most important thing we do as human beings, or anything to do that. Just come back to budget box office. It was done for about $3.3 million, which is what they've achieved on that. Worldwide box office took about 30 million, but I think over the years it's probably surpassed that. It's just fantastic. But I think what its biggest legacy will be is the blend of Western cinema with those Brazilian film techniques. That it's Brazilian, but it's familiar to us as a Western audience because it does use them techniques and storytelling tools that we're used to as a Western audience. There's that blend, and as they did it, and it's just like, it's important for Brazilian cinema, but it's also important for world cinema because it made an impact in the world. Everyone who loves films that is an absolute film, and also it made politically in Brazil, it's very unstable. They've gone from military dictatorships to quite right-wing dictator presidents, and at the time it came out, they were under quite a liberal left-wing president, Luna. I don't know if there's a whole backstory to this. So he was one of the most popular presidents ever. Got in. The West hates him because he's basically a socialist. So we know straight away America didn't like him. But he managed to make Brazil's economy one of the highest, biggest growing economies. And it shouldn't do because they were socialists. They were doing it on social foundation, and it really rattled the world. But while this all came out on his watch, and he was so
the government was so taken by what they saw in this film that it put a real spotlight on life in the favelas, and they said, you know what, we need to go in there, we need to open it up, we need to see what we can do, try and make things a little bit better. So there is that legacy there, because I think one of the things as well, and the message I get from the film, it's that end scene where the little runts are just walking back down the alleyway, and all it's saying is the cycle just starts all over again. Because you see the little kid who was shot in the foot, he runs back and he's like, hey, you went over there, and he goes running and joins them, and you know who they then go and become. So it's just to try and break that cycle. It's had a real impact in politics and world cinema.
And apparently when the kids are walking away naming those gangs, they are real gangs. Yeah. And the kid, another little tidbit, but apparently when the kids' shoe come off, that wasn't planned as well. They just get filming.
Totally feel it,
The figure then comes back to Alexander Rodriguez should have took the cut of the money, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Because one of the stories he tells in the documentary is it got premiered at Cannes, so all that cast got shipped off to Cannes. They got treated like royalty, basically. Paparazzi everywhere, big fancy hotels. But then when it was over, they all just went home.
Yeah.
So Alexander Rodriguez tells a story where, so he's just been in Cannes, he's been wearing a tuxedo, he's like, they've seen all these Ferraris and stuff. He goes home and he's in a bunk bed there's him, his sister's underneath, and his mum is on the floor. His mum's underneath and his sister's on the floor. And the roof just starts leaking and hitting him in the face. And he said he just bursts out crying because he just can't believe he's gone from that one extreme to another, which as well.
That is, anyone who knows the political aspects of Brazilian culture, Brazilian is the massive extreme of really well off rich and so poor, whereas a lot of Western countries, the middle classes tend to make up the most nowadays. I mean, but in Brazil and a lot of South America, it's that two extremes, and that's probably a great example of like.
Yeah, the guy Jonathan Hagerson, I think it's pronounced, who played Shaggy's in the documentary. Well, they're all in the documentary, but he talks about, like, you know, he's in the documentary for money, and he's saying, like, he feels selfish because he's doing it for selfish reasons, and he should be helping people and stuff like that. But he tells a story, just with you coming back to what Brazil was like. He tells a story about him and a friend they robbed an old woman, took 10,000. Again, I've forgotten the currency again. Took money off her, basically. She phoned the police. Police dragged them in. They had the money on them. They bring the woman in, and they tell the woman that they didn't have the money on them. The police took the money, so they brought the woman in to identify them, and told the woman that they haven't got the money on them. Yeah. So it just, like you say, it's that one extreme, isn't it?
And we haven't even touched about the corruption, because that's a big element of the film as well. Yeah, so, and it's
just on the impact. It was Empire's movie of the year, 2003.
That's a big call. That's big. That's big stuff. Yeah,
I've got a feeling that's probably why I went, because I would have seen like the 5-star review. And,
I think I remember just a buzz around it. Anyone who loves films, this film was here, and it's like, whoa, go, like, because had you even ever seen a Brazilian film before this?
No, probably not since. To be honest, I won't lie.
No.
It was the only film that was nominated for Best Director, but not film that year. But it was up against Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, which won 11 of the 11 nominations. So
at least it's not like the when Titanic won everything.
Don't you're gonna get me upset.
At least, you know.
But any other year, you know, it'd have had a really high chance. But I don't think it had a chance.
In recent light of the way the Academy's gone last few years, if this film popped up in the last couple of years, I think this would have won everything.
I think in any other, I think if you plopped it into certain other years, it would have won. I just think that year, Return of the King was gonna win everything, no matter what it was up against, because it was the third of the trilogy, and I just think no one had a chance really. Yeah. So, you know, I'm sure they were amazed. I think they did win loads of other awards. Yeah. But yeah, I feel for them a little bit, because you had no chance that year.
We've mentioned it before about a few other films, but it stays with you. I think that a
absolutely.
legacy in its own.
I mean, we're talking about it now, aren't we? Like 20 years later.
And it's a Brazilian film.
So
made.
how can our listener watch it?
Bit of a funny one. I only managed to get it on Apple TV to rent. I went on not on Netflix. It's not even available on Amazon to rent or buy.
No, and it's weird how the documentary's on Netflix, but they don't have the film.
So I had to go and buy it on Apple TV.
Yeah, me too. We've got our mystery question now. Liam has no idea. We've got our box of questions that I've written. Liam's done questions for me, so obviously it's your pick. Am I reading it? Yep.
Go on. Yeah, go on, you read it.
Okay. So this could relate to anything. So, put in a popular UK chart song on this soundtrack.
Oh. What, like a chop from now?
Anytime. Just a song that's been in the UK charts. A popular UK chart song. Put it in to this soundtrack.
Oh.
It's got to sort of fit.
I'm going to go straight away. And just because it's been in my head for days, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black.
That's a really good shout.
I just think that would just... You could put that anywhere in this film. And it's weird, literally, Dave, I've had that song in my head for days now, and I don't know where it's come from. I'm just like, so...
Like you were waiting for it, ready?
It's weird. No, it's weird. It's like, straight away, I was like, I just think the vibe, the feeling, choice. The lyrics, the feel, it would fit in this film.
Because I'm thinking of the popular UK chart, I was thinking, Don't Look Back in Anger, Oasis. Sort of fits in with the theme of, and if Bernice hadn't shot that policeman, she could have gone. I know Shaggy obviously got killed, but she could have gone.
Interesting. Bit of Oasis.
Good choice that though. You've been thinking all week.
They are massive in Brazil, Oasis as well.
Oh, yeah.
When I know Noel Gallagher still tours out there, it massive right. Over, and Argentina as well, massive over there. So yeah, that again is probably not the biggest, not a bad shout.
If we like this film, then, which we do, but if the listener likes it as well, what else would they like? I've gone with two themes.
Okay.
I've gone with the gangster theme.
Yeah.
So we might cross over. I've gone with the time span theme. So my gangster theme, Goodfellas.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All the Guy Ritchie movies.
Yeah, got that. Yeah.
Yeah, Lock, Stock, Snatch, The Gentleman. They have that non-linear approach as well.
And the little filmic flourishes. With the freeze. When a character walks in, you freeze frame and then zoom in on them and go. Yeah. The bit where when you first meet Knockout Ned, it freezes.
Which they must have took from Guy Ritchie, because Lock, Stock was 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And this was so they've. It's
but
not,
again, the techniques have been around. Yeah. But the vibe to it definitely.
Yeah. Donnie Brasco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Donnie Brasco's great film with Johnny Depp, Al Pacino. Scarface, again, Al Pacino. That's very similar films, aren't they? Very similar themes. Have you seen White Boy Rick?
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey, yeah.
Yes.
Really like that. A couple of ones not gangster, but Trainspotting.
I've got that on my list as well, yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire.
No.
Slumdog Millionaire is almost the same similar story, isn't it? That kid growing up and the different stories. I've gone with a couple of films that just span over time, so they're not directly related to City of God, but Forrest Gump is one of those. Big Fish, the Tim Burton movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
I've seen that with Ewan McGregor. You should watch that.
Okay.
Highlander. Because again, just that film that spans decades, I know it's not like Brazilian crime, but that's me link. That it's like that starts off in like, is it the 1800s or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's taking time spanning in literally centuries. And
then for me, one of my favourite films, When Harry Met Sally, which spans a lot of time, directed by one of our favourites, Rob Reiner. He was in season 5, episode 3 of 30 Rock. So you should watch 30 Rock as well.
I was wondering where the 30 Rock was going to come into it, but
we got there in the end.
Anything that's Rob Reiner related, we're up for that. Okay, a couple of lists I've got the gangster vibe. I got Goodfellas, And I'm going to put Bronx Tale in there as well, a Robert De Niro director, which we mentioned in Boxset, because the guy, the main kid in that,
DiCaprio as well.
Yes, remember when we did A Crimson Tide? The radio operator's the kid from Bronx Tale.
He is, yeah, that's right.
And we were saying he had quite a troubled past, life outside the film and all that. So I love the gangster films where it goes in and out of real life as well. I've got to add Pulp Fiction in there as well. I think the technique, the vibe, the feel of it.
The knot in your stomach watching it.
Yeah. For a foreign film to give you a snapshot of a different way of life, there's a French film called La Haine, which translates to hate, and it's set in suburbs in the outskirts of Paris, that's where basically in Paris where all poor people go. It's like a housing estate on the suburb called La Haine. It follows three young lads, a black kid, a Jewish kid and an Arab kid, and it's just a day in a life where basically there's a riot on their estate and they managed to come away with a police gun, and it's just they follow them round. That is a very similar feel. If you want to go and check that out, it's a fantastic film. It has I can't remember his name, and I forgot to write it down before I came in, is the French guy. Have you ever seen Black Swan with Natalie Portman?
I have.
You know the guy who's the ballet instructor who's really harsh on them? It's him. That was his breakthrough film.
Vincent Cassel.
And he's done a few French gangster films. Go and check them all out. But this made him. If you get a chance to go and see it, I think it's about 1995. It's something else. The Wire.
That's a great shout.
I've got to have The Wire.
I'm actually gutted I didn't even write that down.
I remember I said to you before that I wanted to add one and forgot it. Literally it's just come. That perspective of crime is so important to understand why people get in them situations. Like you know, little Omar and Michael in The Wire, how they end up becoming who they are.
And how Rocket nearly becomes one of them, doesn't he? So easy.
So I think that's and you've already mentioned it, Narcos. I just think if you like Narcos, and there's a good chance you've got into that by Netflix, go back and watch this. You will not be disappointed. And my last one is a little bit of a left field one. Around the same period, a American guitarist, songwriter Ry Cooder got into Cuban music, and he goes over to Cuba. This is all a documentary, by the way. And basically there used to be this band called the Buena Vista Social Club, and they were basically the backing band for everything from the 50s, 60s. So, but as they all got older, they were all in their 60s and 70s, they disbanded, and his mission was to go back to Cuba, get all these old guys together and make an album with them. And it's just one of these...
Searching for Sugar Man?
No, it's called...
Is that a different one?
This is called Buena Vista Social Club.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of the most inspiring, beautiful films, especially one bit where the main... in the band, they've all gone and done things, because Cuba's quite poor as well. The main piano player had not played in like 10 years because he'd convinced himself he had arthritis and he couldn't play. And he'd stopped playing, and it was only when the band got back together, he came in the studio, he was like, I can't play. And then within minutes, he's like, he's just back in. And then they all go on a world tour, right. and it's just, if you love the music and the vibe from City of God, go and check out Buena Vista Social Club. It's a fantastic film.
Okay, so that was this week's episode. It was Liam's choice, City of God, and you should watch it if you can. Follow us on Instagram at watch_it_podcast, or on Twitter at watch_it_pod.
Join us for all our previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Podbean and Amazon Music.